Hi, everybody. This is the New Low News Show. Miraculously, we have gathered all three members of the New Low in the same room. It's harder than it might seem, or you might guess.
I didn't think I didn't think today was gonna happen.
You've just heard the voices of Graham Andrews.
I wasn't quite human until about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And that's Adam Peters. I'm King Kobe. We're all working on different schedules.
Yeah.
I don't know what schedule Graham works on. At any given moment, he may be asleep or awake.
I drift.
Yeah. Interesting. Adam just...
Literally woke up about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, he didn't want to either, but we convinced him to.
Kobe bribed me with orange juice.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't want to wake
and
up?
a slap in the face.
And, shouting directly in his ear, like, Adam, you gotta get your fucking act together. You can't go on like this. So,
Not for the show, just in a general
Yeah.
sense. I was just, letting him know.
Get the fuck up, off my couch, Adam, you dumbass piece of shit. You can only hear that so many times before you're like, okay, Kobe, put the gun down,
No, the New Low is a gun-free household. It is my house, too, just incidentally, just until we get a studio, until we get our come up. But, for now, we're gun-free.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I wouldn't be opposed to somebody being armed on the premises. How would you guys feel about that?
To tell you the truth, even though I'm, pretty anti-gun control, I don't think I've ever seen a gun. Never used one.
Yeah, I've fired a gun. It made me very uncomfortable and sweaty and shaky. I didn't like the idea of that much power in my own hands.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I just I'd be afraid of just accidentally, it accidentally going off.
Or maybe one night you're just feeling real fucked up.
Right.
You're listening to a lot of Elliott Smith songs. Right. You're masturbating. You're crying. Nothing's doing the trick, and you just got a loaded weapon lying around. That's just a liability that I'm not willing to take on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only other news besides guns or no guns is the apocalypse. We've just survived another one.
Right.
I'm proud to say. Every one of these. I don't believe in them, but I'm still proud to make it through every one of them.
You're a survivor.
Yes. Every time I get jacked up, when Y2K happened. You guys remember Y2K?
Actually,
What was that, 12 years ago?
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
The only thing I remember about Y2K was I think I had an uncle or a relative who's a computer programmer, and he told me nothing was going to happen. And I also remember hearing people who were prepping, so people buying huge stockpiles of Cheerios and
green beans.
Yeah, green beans. And I was thinking how big of an asshole would you feel if you were kind of letting it all ride on some sort of Y2K event, and you actually not you got excited for it, because I could see getting kind of wound up if everyone's talking about how the world's going to end. But if you actually went out and took the trouble...
You took precautions for something that just did not occur.
It's all right, now I'm the proud owner of 200 cans of artichoke hearts.
I was going to say, 3 years worth of food.
Right. Well, no, just think about it this way. There's a major disruption in America's infrastructure. How much water do you have?
How much on me?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
How much comes through the pipes?
There's no bottled water in this studio.
Yeah. How much water do you suppose there is in Baltimore and Towson?
Well, we're by the ocean, right? That's water. You can't drink it. I'm not sure how that works.
No, I think we have a reservoir.
Yeah.
The water
you can drink right from that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No.
I would boil it first.
See, that's how fucked up modern civilization makes you. You don't even know where to get
fresh
H2O. The only thing I would think of doing, and I've done zero research into this, is I would guess I'd set up a rain barrel or something and just hope I could catch.
Yeah, I would say if you set up a rain barrel and boiled all the water, so you would have to count on having a stove or at least fire, you would be fairly safe. Okay. I'm not sure.
Matches, Kobe?
I have a lighter, so when that lighter runs out, I don't know how to make fire. I should have probably looked that up or bothered to pay attention in Boy Scouts, but I already didn't do that. Yeah. So
Yeah, my parents didn't want me to join Boy Scouts. They said it was a fascist organization.
Well, they were kind of right. Ironically, the Boy Scouts exclude atheists and homosexuals. It's very uncool in this day and age.
They exclude atheists?
Yeah, they do, but they don't. Like, I didn't believe in God when I was a kid. They never actually made me do the pledge. And all
But
that
the
shit.
technically,
yes, they're excluded. Although the Girl Scouts don't have that exclusion. And
the Girl Scouts are much more progressive.
Right.
Than,
Speaking of which, I saw a Girl Scout cookie stand today, and I wanted cookies, but I decided I was too broke and just drove on. That's the times we're living in.
I seriously see like a Girl Scouts cookie table at either workplace about 3 times a week, maybe 2 times a week.
Right.
How do you not buy a box of
Well,
cookies?
that's the thing.
Every time.
You think
I'm not a big fan of cookies for one, and two, if I wanted cookies, I don't want Girl Scout cookies.
You don't like.
I'm not a big fan of cookies, I guess. I mean, there is something wrong with me. Okay?
Explain yourself.
Well, I don't like cake either.
Right? Yeah, I know. I'm trying to.
You don't like cookies, cake.
Do you like good or do you prefer bad? Like I'm just more like.
I like vanilla.
Okay.
Yeah. That's about it though.
Right. But back on the topic of doomsday prepping. What do you guys think? How much food do you suppose you could collect in your immediate environment?
What you mean, like not in my house, but like from the environment around me?
I'm thinking like both. Like how long? How many provisions? How much provisions do you
I have about like $50 worth of groceries in this house.
Right. Mostly Triscuits.
Yeah, mostly packaged goods.
Yeah.
Mostly beer, Triscuits, Life cereal, V8 vegetable juice. These are just my kinks, you know. So that would probably run out, I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that. And then, when I go out there, maybe I'd try to like hunt for some animals, some rabbits, raccoons. What else lives around here?
People.
Just go
People, deer.
Yeah, that's true. I can't just go to the grocery store.
Well, I mean, what you just asked about my immediate environment.
Yeah, no, I was talking about like a disruption of like
okay.
see that's the whole thing. Like what I'm trying to get at with all these stupid questions is that like we think of the end of the world as like a really dramatic sort of thing. Like you're gonna be running around.
Yeah, you'll wake up, you'll open your blinds, everything will be on fire.
Yeah, like zombies will be running up to the Route
Zombies,
40,
robots, gas masks, chemical weapons.
But really, you'd be living as a hunter-gatherer, and a bad one at that, because our environment, well, one, we never have to do it, and two, our environment is not very plentiful at the moment.
Well, and since all our agriculturally grown food is grown like in the middle of the country somewhere, it's like how would you eat vegetables and grains when all the vegetation around here is like fucking thorn bushes, and trees,
grass,
bark.
Yeah,
I don't believe you should eat that. I don't know if you can, but
yeah, you probably could. But
I think you could eat bark.
you could eat it, but it's not. I don't think it's food.
I wonder how starving would you?
It's like eating paper.
Would you have to be for bark to start looking like appetizing?
Well, there's a condition that I know because of House MD called pica, which is when people have food cravings for things that are not actually food, like clay and bark.
Interesting.
Yeah, usually pregnant women.
My dad's English teacher.
So those are the
pica
two groups.
when he was growing up, because America used to be a third world country. like he just grew up in the sticks, didn't have enough food. Time to eat some mud. Yeah, I think it's
I remember
literally how the way it worked.
There was like this one of these lists on crack.com, I think, and there was this one guy, his stomach lining, it was weird. It was had an abnormal stomach lining wherein he could actually eat and be able to digest metal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he would do it.
It was called the human goat, I think.
Human goat?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
That was his stage name.
Over the course of 1 or 2 years or something like that, he ate an entire airplane.
Oh yeah, I kind of remember something about this guy.
Yeah.
So
That guy will win.
Yeah. He is the next step.
Yeah.
But that's why I always said, in the case of the apocalypse, my plan is just to die. It's just easier that way.
Yeah.
It's more dignified.
Right.
Rather than like scrapping around, trying to pretend like you're going to live, just resign yourself to certain death. No, you're going to make it.
Well, hang on. I may not make it, but I'll see if I can make it.
Right.
Maybe I won't win, but maybe I'll get like second place or
now,
something.
like, my health is so bad that, like, me trying to survive would be, like, the saddest fucking thing to watch.
Well, dude, I told you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're weighing me down.
No, I wouldn't even go. Why would I go? Oh, hey, Graham, we're going to cut out for the mountains or something, you know? Like, because that'll be, you know, that's a life, you know, worth living.
Well, see,
your ancestors did that.
Yeah, and now I'm here, and I decided that I can't go back. You know, like this is as far as the road ends. You know,
it peaked at your generation.
Yeah, I wouldn't say peaked, but it made it. You know, like,
it was over. Yeah. It finished.
Okay, so
well, the other thing about the apocalypse is, you know, the sad reality is there is no apocalypse.
You think so?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you guys, what do you think the most likely? Even if you don't think it's going to happen, like
the most likely?
Yeah.
I would punch out Jesus.
How would that relate? Like,
how would that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, like he lost a bet to me, and he tried to renege on the $20, so I punched him in the fucking face.
Yeah, I probably would too.
Yeah.
But how's that?
How is that more likely?
Yeah. How's it going to happen?
Oh, when he comes down, we're going to place a bet on the Super Bowl this year.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or next year, I should say. And when he loses...
You're going to punch him out?
Punch him right in the grill.
Well, because
if he doesn't
he's not
pay
going to give him
me.
the money.
Yeah, if he doesn't pay me.
And he punched him in the grill, and then that what causes the universe to link out or something like that.
Implode, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's...
Cause
that's a good way for the world to end, I think.
How about you, Kobe? How do you think it's going to end?
It's not. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
You're gonna live every day fucking checking Facebook, checking Twitter, trying to talk to some chick, fucking taking a shit, having to shave your mustache off, just all this bullshit. You have to fueling up the car, you know, talking to your parents, you know, just all this garbage you got to do every day that you hate and resent. Tying your shoes.
I thought you were talking about yourself for a quick second, but then you said talking to the parents.
Go to the laundromat.
Yeah.
Cutting the grass.
Oh man, I cut the grass today, and that to me is the height of pointless activity because like there's, as far as I can tell,
you're probably like the last person in Maryland to cut their grass like for the rest of this year.
I know, really, it's like it's almost Christmas, but I finally got around to it, and it was like, but while I was doing it, I was really close to just snapping because it's the dumbest thing. Like, what happens if you don't cut the grass? Nothing. It's just it gets a little longer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like grass has been there longer than we have.
Oh, and even
who are we to go in and tell it?
Well, and lawns are really an invention to show status,
right,
that you can maintain an area of the earth that has nothing on it,
like,
that you can mow using fossil fuels.
How fucked up is that? Like, who would have a piece of arable land that they intentionally did not grow shit on? You know?
Yeah.
Like, how could you explain that to your ancestors? If I went back 5,000 years to Scotland or something, and I was like, oh yeah, we got this huge patch of dirt. What do you put there?
Nothing.
Nothing.
We just make sure it doesn't grow.
What do you do with the grass clippings? Nothing.
Right.
You know, like,
No, we put them in bags.
yeah. Oh, and you know how we make those bags, right? We burn coal. You know, like, it's,
Yeah. Here's a similar pointless activity: is blowing leaves.
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I couldn't
see. They make.
I've
I've blown leaves for work, and it was for a paycheck for $9 an hour in 2008 or something.
Yeah.
And it was quite demoralizing, I have to say, because you're like, first of all, I like leaves; they could stay exactly where they fell. You know, they don't bother me a bit. But instead, somebody with money pays me to run an engine, a gun that blows air and blows the leaves, not even very efficiently, because it's like leaves blow around in circles, and you have to keep going back, and like it's the whole process of going back and forth to move the leaves into a pile that you then have to rake up anyway, and then you put it in bags made of petroleum, and then you send them off somewhere. I never followed it that far.
I remember, like, it was actually, I was 20 years old the first time I had to rake leaves off a lawn, and I had to get someone to explain it to me a couple times. Like, they were like, all right, you got to gather them up. Like, you know, and I kept them pointing at the ground, like, well, what do you mean? I don't.
Right. Like, what happens if I don't?
Yeah.
Do the leaves just keep piling up and just bury us all alive?
That's what's gonna happen. It'll kill the lawn.
Right. I know. And then what? Don't you not want the grass to grow?
So you have to keep the leaves from piling up and killing the grass, so the grass can grow, so you can cut the grass.
And what if I instead
didn't do any of that shit?
took the car, went into the garage, closed it, closed the door, and left it on? You know,
that would be the same effect,
right?
Maybe actually less, negative impact on the environment.
I'll say, like, what if I just killed myself? You know, what if I just?
Oh, sorry, I was thinking on the positive side of things.
Speaking of spinning out of control, I'm a participant on the image board 4chan. I'm probably
Graham, are you coming out?
Yeah, I use 4chan. Most people don't want to admit to that because the place is a cesspool of vulgarity and reactionary thought and bad taste and stuff like that. But I went there because after there's any sort of like massive massacre of some kind, like they always go nuts with just posting and stuff like that. And I saw a lot of conspiracy theories being floated around. And we talked about this on a few of the other shows, and probably the dumbest, literally one of the dumbest things I've ever seen was there were these dudes who were posting that the families of the victims up in Connecticut were paid actors.
Yeah, it's that simple.
To fake the massacre. And
because that would be the easiest way to fake a massacre.
Right. Okay, so what's the objective? Okay, let's say the objective is to take away people's guns. What better way to do this than to hire somewhere in the ballpark of 40 people to pretend there was a shooting at a school that people know about? Like, people could go drive down and check that something in fact happened.
School that people attend.
Right. People have family in the area. So we're going to fake this. We're going to put these actors on TV to fake emotions that are then going to cause people to be more sympathetic to restrictions on the Second Amendment rights, so that eventually, I guess, they can institute some sort of new world order or tyrannies. Because there's one dude who goes by the name Well-Aware-1, who is the sort of the progenitor for all these sort of paid actor theories. He also thinks that the shootings in Aurora were faked, that the shooting in Tucson.
So he thinks Jared Loughner and James Holmes
also faked.
All of them were faked.
I think he also thinks that 9/11 was faked.
Okay. So he doesn't believe
the Gulf War was faked.
So he doesn't believe that violence ever happened.
He doesn't believe that events have occurred. He thinks it's all a hoax by the news, to create situations that are amenable to people in power. And it's like, what upset me the most about this guy was not that he thinks stupid things, because there are a lot of people who think stupid things out there.
Oh yes, most people.
Yeah, but it's that he is making a laughingstock out of what I think is an otherwise valid way to look at the world, right? Like, I think looking into conspiracies are important, because what is a conspiracy? A conspiracy is a group of more than two people.
Or a cartel.
A cartel, whatever you want to call it, who get together and they plan on ways to take your shit, right? That's a conspiracy. They're all around you.
Oh, yes,
right?
They sure are.
Right, like Gore Vidal said, what is a political party but a conspiracy to gain political power, right? So you have these groups of people that are working in the world to fuck you over, right? Not necessarily you in particular, but fuck someone over. And so you need to be careful that they're not going to screw with you, right? So you need to kind of think conspiratorially a little bit. But if you get carried away and start thinking that everything's a fucking paid, front. I mean, I think one of the greatest examples of a modern conspiracy is like neoconservatism. If you look at that movement, there's only like 10 guys who are behind the whole fucking thing. And they engineered a lot of, they helped engineer a consensus for a war that didn't need to happen. And they did it all in the open. So
right.
If you're tracking it, it's just looking at how do these guys relate to each other. It's not looking at specific events, it's looking at sort of like the networks behind them. And if there's no network, there's probably no fucking conspiracy. Because sometimes bad things just happen. We're actually going to kind of continue on some themes we were talking about last week. because people in the wake of the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary are talking about a variety of social issues.
It's the culture of violence, Graham.
It's the fact that we just can't get along. We cling to guns and religion because we don't trust the government. We don't trust each other. And
well, some of that's true, but I don't cling to guns or religion personally.
Well, yeah, I don't personally have a gun or a religious belief, but I understand why people would want one or both. You know, in the wake of stuff like this, everyone has their own spin on agenda on what we can do to fix the quote unquote problems that are going around. And one of the most egregious examples of this was a video that me and Kobe just watched. It was released by a bunch of
Fuck.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
how many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
It was released by a bunch of
remember Public Enemy's song called "Burn Hollywood Burn"? That's how I felt about that video.
Yeah, it was a bunch of guys, famous people, comedians, actresses, stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of people I liked.
Right, who I'm never going to...
I don't like anymore.
Yeah.
I will unlike them on the Facebook pages.
Right, no, even the guy who plays Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, John Hamm, who plays, what's his name?
Chris Rock,
Chris
Conan.
But isn't that like the most obnoxious way to present an idea? Like to have a montage of people kind of having that overlapping way of talking. So
we need to
stop the
how many
more
links.
Just kind of this montage. It's like, dude, just fucking spit it out.
Well, if you had a good idea, you wouldn't need, that many people to collaborate.
Yeah, but you need to see all the famous faces. But yeah, right. You can just boil it down to one thing.
And that's what upsets me about it, too. It's like, I know there are people out there that are that fucking simple. That they're just going to see people they like, people that entertain them, say something, and they'll think, hey, they think that. Well, I should think that, too. But, see, it's not that simple. You have to be a liberal hick to think that.
Right. Well, one of the things that always kind of bothers me about when famous people come out in support of gun control is, none of them have to live in the situations where a gun might be necessary. All these people have private security.
Right.
It's like Mayor Bloomberg, he comes out and says, we need to restrict gun sales or do something like that. It's like,
dude, is he going to disarm his security detail?
Yeah, dude, you're followed around, like, everywhere you go by New York City police, like, who will fucking gun down anyone who looks at you funny. And so that's great that you feel that completely defenseless peasants should be disarmed, but it's just kind of hypocritical.
Oh yeah, and I feel the same way about Hollywood actors and actresses. Yeah. I mean, why would they don't have to worry about the same things that maybe somebody living in a rural community. They're disengaged from the very simple modes of survival. They don't have to worry about that kind of thing.
Right, and one thing that they'll come out, I saw the mayor of New York today, Cuomo, and New York is kind of an epicenter for wrong thought, especially on these matters. He was saying, like, you don't need these violent, these assault weapons, which is a very ambiguous term.
Yeah, all weapons are assault weapons in some sense.
You don't need these assault weapons to go hunting. It's like, dude, that's not what it's about. The purpose of having an armed peasantry is that it acts as a check against criminality and also the excesses of the government. The whole point of having people with guns is that it ultimately makes society less malleable and compliant to the people in power.
See, this is something I was thinking about too. As long as there are guns, and there will be guns, because anybody with the hardware that can produce guns will produce them on some level. There's even zip guns in prison. As long as there are guns, gun rights are human rights.
Right.
Because even if the state possesses an ultimate monopoly on power and any sort of showdown between the individual and the state, even in an armed compound will look something like the Waco siege. If you're talking about taking guns away from peasants, more or less, what you're saying is that they don't even have a fighting chance.
Right.
When you look at,
or that they don't deserve a fighting chance.
Right. When you look at how many people are accidentally, allegedly, or systematically just out in the open murdered by governments and police departments and military operations, it's hard to say with a straight face, in my mind, if you are a true liberal, if you believe in the rights of the individual, that that you can really take away gun rights from an individual
Yeah.
to protect themselves from the oppressive forces of the state.
Right. And I agree. And if you don't agree, you're a fucking Nazi.
You're wrong. Fucking Nazis. Nothing changes.
Yeah. So some people will say, well, we don't want to take guns away from normal law-abiding citizens. We just want to make sure the guns don't fall into the hands of crazy people.
Crazies. Well, how do you do that? Can you even say crazy? Can you say the C word in this day and age?
Can you call someone fucking nuts or mental or deranged, psychotic, unhinged?
Well, that's the thing. After these shootings or massacres, people are very quick to say this person had to be off his rocker.
Well, of course, it's kind of like tautologically speaking, if you can go in and execute a bunch of young people that is going to fit the definition of mental illness, one would hope. But it doesn't necessarily provide us with a way to go from there, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, of course we don't want people shooting.
Well, people who kill a lot of innocent people are clearly crazy.
Right.
So how do we determine who those people are?
Exactly. So the way we do that is ... What do? We send everyone to a shrink who might be kind of weird. The shrink makes a diagnosis like...
I think they should put a question that says, would you ever execute a lot of innocent people?
Right.
And if they answer no, then they're not crazy.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And it's like, but the
rest of the time we're so careful to not label people crazy. They just have a disorder.
Right.
They're going through some things. They're having issues.
Having a rough time. There's no stigma associated with it. If you need to take multiple mood-altering drugs,
antipsychotics, antidepressants,
that have
anti-anxiety,
well-documented side effects, some of which involve increased violent tendencies
and behavior,
and behavioral modification, changes, sleepless nights, weight gain, hair loss, change in libido, feelings of depersonalization and derealization. If you need to go through all that for some fucking reason just to get your head on straight again, which many Americans do, atypical antipsychotics are the most commonly prescribed drug in the country, then there's no stigma with that. But we need to make sure that some people in that subset of people who are getting all these fucked up drugs do not get their hands on firearms. And there's also the problem that we medicalize, things like evil. It's like, okay, well,
it's not just something in men's hearts.
Right, yeah. It's not just Satan coming in and telling you to do bad things. No, it's you have some sort of illness that we can fix if only we had the right treatment and research and stuff like that. So it's and it's essentially this is, I think, the basis for the liberal worldview, which is that if only we had enough access to X, enough money for treatment, enough diagnostic tests,
too few guns,
enough people going to talk therapy to talk about how their childhood being a disaffected reject is causing them to create violent tendencies. If only we had the right concoction of therapeutic technologies, we could go in and remove the evil parts of men's souls that have existed since the dawn of time.
So you're saying that liberals are trying to socially engineer a world that cannot exist?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the process, and that's the thing, if you want to make the world a better place, it's fine. Right? That's the whole thing with the road to hell being paved with good intentions. You can want mentally ill people to feel better. I mean, I guess I want that too, although I don't really give a shit, to tell you the God's honest truth. But then it's like, in the process, what do? You label people that aren't a threat to anyone as fucking nuts. You give people these stupid drugs, and you don't, in fact, prevent any shootings.
Well, that's the bottom line. If you're talking about how do you prevent these shootings, I don't really think there's a way.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Right. I don't think so either. Ban schools. That's where all the shootings happen.
Right. Get rid of people.
Right. So
if we all lived in isolation tanks,
right,
with electrodes running into our brains,
ketamine,
ketamine, whatever pleasant reality you want, that illusion just transmitted directly into your brain by medication or electroshock, or I don't know how science works. So some of that stuff, if you were just a brain in a bubble,
right, then evil,
you would be highly unlikely to be killed by another person,
another brain in a bubble.
Right.
He's not going to come over.
Right. He could think that he does. Right. He's doing.
And he could think it all the time.
But nobody would have to die that way.
So what you're saying is, if we could substitute a virtual life for real life we could take the edge off of real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, quite literally.
Right. So maybe life needs to be somehow abolished at some point. Not in a violent way, but
Not taken,
Right.
not stolen.
but just phased out, replaced with something else. You know?
Maybe not death, just another.
Yeah. Like a coma. Maybe everyone just needs to be put in a coma. The Daily Mail, which is my favorite newspaper on the planet.
Is that based in the United Kingdom?
It is. It's based in the UK. It's known for its sensationalism, for getting shit wrong. Like, its science reporting is like terrible in terms of like actually like telling you what the study was really about.
So any reliable news source.
Right, and so it has kind of that tabloid quality that I like, because at a certain point in my life I realized I was tired of serious journalism. You know, shit like the Washington Post, the New York Times.
Oh yeah, well, on some level, news is just entertainment.
Right, yeah, if it bleeds, it leads, that sort of stuff. Like, I don't want to hear the opinions of quote-unquote respectable people anymore, because I'm not respectable, I don't care what they think, they can all go fucking burn in hell. So, I started reading the Daily Mail.
And what do they have to say?
Well, you know, I read this article that was pretty interesting. You guys might get a kick out of this. Apparently, according to a survey that they're talking about, and given that this is the Daily Mail, they could have gotten it totally wrong. Women, I don't know where these women are from, but some group of women say that they prefer the aesthetic of a man from the 1950s over any other type of man. So that's sort of Don Draper,
Yeah.
James Bond.
A man who could like afford a suit to
Right.
wear.
A nice Cadillac, you know, teal Cadillac or
A
something.
man's man.
Right, you know, drinks scotch, smokes a lot of, you know, unfiltered
Cigars,
cigarettes,
right.
and
Yeah.
cigars, takes, you know, very powerful sedatives, has flashbacks to the war, you know, World WW2 or Korea, something like that. That's the type of man they want. He'll drop dead of a heart attack at age 45 or 50.
Right. But I think what they're really looking for when they want that
Right.
is money. Because ultimately, well, no, there's some truth to the fact that a test of, you know, women have these sort of nesting instincts.
Right.
Like, if a man, you know, it's like Chris Rock said, if a man could fuck a woman in a cardboard box, he wouldn't get a house, right? So, but they're doing this sort of subconsciously. Like, I think they may be attracted to that aesthetically, but really they're thinking about, one of those men could, you know, he could provide for a family.
Well, that's back to
Just
motherfuckers
stole the
had-
word right into my brain. The provider. That's what they're looking
Right,
for.
whereas if she was looking at like some dope like me, like wearing like a sweater and like some corduroys or whatever I have on at the moment,
Yeah.
you know, they'd be like, look at that, you know, that guy probably.
Yeah, look at that Peckerwood, you
Right.
know, PW, poor white trash. You know, well, they might not go that far, but yeah.
Well, it's true. Though.
Yeah. But no, and it's like, you know, because wages for dudes haven't gone up in 40 years, something like that.
Right. Well, wages for everybody have gone down more
Yeah.
or less, or for the working class.
Right.
And
So it's like,
this wasn't helped at all by women flooding into the workplace. Not that they don't have a right to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, women can hold any position of employment that they can attain. You know, I'm not a chauvinist in any way, but I'm just saying it kind of brought everybody down. And they haven't really caught up to that fact, I don't think, you know?
well,
Like for example, when a woman expects me to pay for, let's say, any of her stuff, I don't see why I should have to do that.
so
You wanted to work.
Right.
You wanted responsibility. Now you can take care of yourself.
well, actually, I do it a little differently. I say,
Like, I believe in equality.
Right,
Graham.
right.
So, for example, like, if we went out, like, hung out,
right.
you wouldn't just expect me to buy your meals, you know? You wouldn't, like, ask me to, you know, can you buy this nice dress or sweater for me, right? I mean, for other reasons, but
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
theoretically, even if you wanted, like, a hat or a six-pack or something,
Right.
you wouldn't just expect that.
Right.
You wouldn't even bring it up. You would just pay for your shit. So
Right.
that is the way that I treat all people, all
Right.
human beings,
You're-
snowflakes, beautiful, wonderful people.
Right, you're a pure egalitarian.
Yes.
In that respect, I do it a little differently. I go when I go out with a girl, which is very uncommon these days. I say something like, "Hey, do you want to pay for my
French fries and mozzarella cheese.
for my stuff?"
Yeah.
And it works sometimes, you know. So
Well, do you explain that you're in a hard... Do you make excuses, or do you just ask,
So you never know with people. You can just sometimes you just ask, and they're more than willing to give you
Sort of sweet talker, just directly. Would you mind?
Yeah.
Getting me this time.
So-
and every time.
You have to have a little bit of charm to, I guess, pull that off, though. You can't just say, "Bitch, I'm fucking broke. You brought me here. You have to fucking pay."
No. Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta have some style.
Yeah.
just kind of slow roll, like, hey.
So the check's here.
Look what happened.
Ooh, fresh out. I don't appear to have money. I didn't know I would need that.
Why
for
don't I
this
just
encounter.
pay the 15% tip in cash, and then you take care of the rest?
Yeah. So how do you these days times are tough for everyone economically.
Yes.
So how do you handle the scene, going out and
The
dating?
scene.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, fuck the scene.
Yeah.
Okay, like what? I don't know. We gotta drop this whole pretense of dating because it is a throwback to older economic situation when a dude had just money he could throw around. Like he could have a family with like 3 beautiful white children or children of any race. I'm not trying, but it happened to be white back then, and he could have a wife who was taken care of economically,
Right.
and was a homemaker.
Right.
And he could also have mistresses.
Right.
He could pay for all their shit.
Right.
Bang them. That doesn't make them prostitutes, though.
Yeah.
That just makes them.
Whores.
That's just practical,
Right. So whether you prefer that situation to this one or not, personally, I don't. I think modern times are more interesting.
Right.
I mean, although, so the whole pretense of dating is just sort of it's gone. You meet up, you hang out,
Right.
You get together. It's like a friend. Just like you hang out with your male friends,
Right.
and you might have sex with each other, because that's just the economic situation we're in.
So how's it different from the male friends? No, just talking with these. Okay, so you're going to a bar.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I usually drink before I leave the house.
Yeah. Heavily or?
Yeah. I mean, pretty... Not heavily. Like, I don't get drunk,
Yeah.
but you get a buzz on.
So so you drink heavily beforehand, and then you show up and you talk to the girl. So you're already kind of loaded.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually that leaves a good impression.
Right.
At first.
Yes.
And then, yes, you try to drink something that makes you look, sort of like a lightweight or something.
Right.
Just have a Bud Light or something,
But you're already.
Right, you're already in there,
Yeah.
and it hasn't really fully hit you yet. At some point during the evening, it will, and you will say a lot of weird stuff. So, but
Right.
that's all part of the dating. That's all part of the process these days.
Yes. Then you pay
For me. I don't know
$3
about
for
you.
the Bud Light.
Yes.
Tip 20%.
Yeah, I do tip.
And then what if she was like, "Hey, can you get me a drink?"
I would say, what's the matter? Are you unemployed? If she was unemployed, I would consider getting the drink.
Right. But if she wasn't, you would.
If she wasn't, I would say, no,
Yeah.
this is a meetup. I'm going to pay for my drinks, you're going to pay for yours. We're going to go Dutch.
Right.
That's the nice way to put it.
I always wonder how.
Another way to do it is you pay for her shit, then she pays for let's say the
Right.
next outing or round
Right.
or whatever. So there's a sort of mutual trust thing going on. But I say the first encounter, definitely half and half.
Yeah. So where did the phrase "going Dutch" originate? It seems like kind of a
Probably
mean-
something pornographic.
Yeah. Because like I know some Dutch guys, and they told me that they're like in the European Union, they're notorious for being like really cheap.
Okay.
So maybe it's kind of like going Dutch is like a, they can't be bothered to
But it's
like
weird, though, because going Dutch is actually a mutual thing.
right,
So, like, both of you guys are being cheap.
right. I'm just saying.
I forgot my point, actually.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Well,
It's,
no, see, because you're not taking. Neither party is taking unnecessary economic risk.
Right.
If nothing happens from it, or if it's like a bad meeting, or you just don't like each other, then you just had some drinks, and you paid for them, and now you went home.
Well, I'm a little different, I guess, because if I take a girl out on a date, I mean, I would pay for everything.
Oh, Adam, you sweetheart, you. Really? How often? Like every date?
How
How many dates?
many dates?
Do you date?
No. Just in theory, I think it's a good idea. It's a good custom to have, I think. It's a good principle.
Why do you support it?
I think it's, I still believe in chivalry. It's not
Right.
dead. It's good manners, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's just the kind thing to do.
I think it is a kind thing to do.
See-
Shows that you can provide as well.
Right. So you think it's kind of.
But can you provide?
Well, I can.
And then isn't that a lie if you do pay for her shit when you can't really afford it to
Mm-hmm.
be kind, and then she finds out later that you broke as a joke? You can't keep doing that.
Well, that's why I think post 2008 is a great time for honesty because
Okay.
everyone knows
Yeah.
that no one has any fucking money, so you
Right.
can just like back like.
So you can just be like, hey, instead of going at some point, maybe I'd say third or
I
fourth
was gonna
date.
say third date.
Yeah.
Like, why not just say like, hey, let's drink on the cheap tonight or something.
Yes. Okay. So,
So
we're
why
sort
not?
of on the same
Right.
page.
Yeah.
Well, no,
but then third date, I'm still paying for shit.
Right.
Yeah, I'd
No,
still pay for shit on the third date.
like I remember back in like 2005 and shit,
Yeah.
back when motherfuckers had more money, and I was
Right.
broke then because I'm always am.
Yeah.
I would like feel kind of embarrassed when I wouldn't have money, whereas now you're just like, man, I am broke.
Well, everyone's on the same boat now.
right. So it
And
changes.
it's fucking sinking.
Yeah.
rapidly.
We're all staring at the water. The life rafts are gone.
Right, so-
But Adam, you like to retain some of that traditional sort of.
Absolutely.
Adam's a
I-
man's man.
Yeah.
I try. But, I mean, I haven't gone on a date yet, so I still have a little bit of money.
Would you wear a suit on a date?
I would dress up, but not a full suit.
Not a full suit. Maybe a collared shirt
Definitely.
tucked in.
Yes.
Okay. I don't that too.
You
I
don't
just
do
wear
that?
whatever I had on, like anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever I was wearing at the house.
Well, I usually just wear, khakis and collared shirts anyway.
Right. Well, Adam looks good, so that's a big difference too.
Yeah.